Um, all right, thank you, everyone. I'm Gagan Mac. I work as the Director of Product Management at Circle. Circle is the creator of USDC and developer tools for payments, custody, and more. I focus primarily on Web3 services and the developer ecosystem. So I'd love to talk to you guys more about like the promise of Web3, the utility, and the caveat is that these views are my own. This does not represent Circle. I'm relatively new to working in the Web3 space, but I've been a student and a follower for more than 3 years now. So a little bit about me. This will tell you why you should choose to believe me or not on all the details that I tell you. So I grew up in India. I'm a self-taught programmer. I'm a programmer by accident. I was a tiny kid, and my parents, we didn't have a computer at home. My dad used to run a small lodge. Someone did not pay him, gave him a computer, running a 486 machine, MS-DOS. He brought it home. He didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with it. I took out the ball, which is in the mouse in the early days, played with it, lost my mouse, didn't buy another one. Got a book on Turbo C++, and it blew my mind when I learned that you can actually model physical objects in computers through object-oriented programming, and the concepts. That's where my journey began. Fast forward, I moved to the United States, studied computer engineering, just kept getting fascinated by the idea of how technology solves problems. These are some of the products that I have built. At Amazon, I worked on Fire TV, another disastrous product called the Fire Phone. It was really bad, but I still worked on it. And at Twilio was where I learned the power of actually developers at scale and what developers enable at scale. Another important lesson I learned at Twilio was what happens when you create when you take an analog asset, like in case of Twilio, it was an SMS or a voice call completely disconnected from the internet, and then build a programmable layer on top of it. It literally transforms industries. And that idea stuck with me. But I was naive, so I left Twilio in 2.5 years after building Voice Insights, which was the first communication analytics product for the CPaaS industry. And then went on to work in consumer products at Uber. So anytime you're calling and messaging your Uber driver, that's the stack that my team built. Went on to work at Meta. There I was fascinated with the idea of the metaverse. And this was like 3 years ago, before the company was named Meta. And I was like fascinated with AR. So just went and pitched the company that I wanted to work on AR glasses. The team was still being built, so I was one of the first PMs on AR glasses. Shipped Ray-Ban stories, but the idea of what today is termed as Web3, and we'll talk a lot more about it, and where metaverse intersects and ownership in the metaverse. These kinds of ideas were things that I was thinking about when I was working at Meta. And then there was something I kept getting stuck on, like what is the real utility of Web3? And only recently as in 6 months ago, 6 months to a year ago, my whole journey came together when I thought about this idea of a dollar that now becomes programmable. And so we'll talk about that a little bit. When I'm not at work, I love playing football, soccer. You can see me here at the World Cup in Brazil. I hope to go to the World Cup in Qatar as well. And then I love eating street food. So that's with my family in India. So over the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll talk about what is Web3 anyway? And there are so many varying definitions. I would love your help. I would love to know what you guys think about what Web3 is. Then we'll talk about why we should build Web3 apps. We are all here. Most of us, I'm assuming, how many developers are there in the room? Right. How many builders? If you're building a company, designer, the rest of you. That covers majority of the room, right? So why are we building Web3 apps, and what do we want to accomplish? So just from the fundamentals perspective, we'll talk about that a little bit. I'll present a case study in utility, and the reason why I gave you guys this detail on my background is because that is what the learnings that I had transformed my journey and enabled me to go into Web3 with conviction and build with a vision. So I'll share a little bit about that. And then the last few minutes, we'll talk about what are we building next at Circle and why I am here. That'll provide you guys more context as well. So there was this article in 2021 by the Wired magazine, and it was what is Web3 anyway? Anyone wants to take a swing at it? What does Web3 mean to you guys? If no one answers, I'm going to call on people. Anyone?
No.
What does Web3 mean to you?
I guess it's the users, consumers of information and content has more authority or ownership.
Yeah, ownership. Yeah, ownership is a big one. Yep. Users, that's well said. So users, creators of content have more ownership over their creations. Ownership is a big factor. Anyone else?
Decolonizing yourself from traditional finance.
Say that again, sorry?
Decolonizing yourself from traditional finance.
Isolate yourself or decolonize yourself from traditional finance. Powerful idea. Yep.
On the say equalization of users, is there enough like preferred users with which you have agreements, not preferred users or users? It's the same like just blockchain.
Right. So in a way, user privacy and user segmentation, like privacy of users, is that a fair way to describe it?
Quality of users.
Quality of users. Okay. So we all, in this room itself, we have like 3 different definitions or 3 different ideas that popped up in our mind when we think of Web3. And it's early, so people, of course, have different ideas of what Web3 is. When the term Web3 was coined in 2014, and it was coined as like a decentralized online ecosystem based on blockchain by Gavin Wood, the founder of Ethereum and Polkadot. So when I read this definition, it's like, okay, decentralized online ecosystem based on blockchain. And everything that you guys described, like isolating yourself or decolonizing yourself from traditional finance or ownership or users, these are like fundamental properties that get enabled with this decentralized online ecosystem. And these are the words that come up: decentralized, trustless, ownership, blockchain-based. But these are all properties of Web3. What does it still really enable? What is the value that we are delivering to people when we are investing our time and money and effort in building Web3 applications? And is it really decentralized? Decentralized in terms of technology and compute is fair, but is it decentralized in terms of finances? Venture capitalists have invested like $100 billion. Are we just transferring value from the big tech companies to venture capitalists? Is this what it's about? Or is it about, will it ever reach scale? The blockchain trilemma of security, decentralization, and scalability, and we haven't really solved it fully yet. So can blockchain actually reach 5 billion people who have access to internet today? And if yes, how? What will make it happen? And that's when we have fulfilled the true promise of Web3. So these are the kinds of things that I think about, and it's very exciting, despite like all the next few slides, you're going to see some doom and gloom. When we think about applications, right? So we can speak of Web3 in terms of technology, like blockchain enabled. We can think of Web3 in terms of its promise, like decentralized, trustless, enables ownership. We can speak of Web3 in terms of applications. These are some of the applications that are well known. NFTs have dropped 97% in value. DAOs running into governance problems. DeFi is hitting a plateau in some cases. Stablecoins, this chart is from Terra. Everyone's familiar with it, right? So what are we doing, guys? Like, where is the real value? Where is the utility? There is utility in each of these applications. It's just that we are in the early stage and we have to figure it out. So this is how it's going today, right? 2.3 billion lost in Web3 scams in 2022 so far. We are not done yet. We still have a quarter to go. And metaverse it's lonely in the metaverse. This was a recent article, brought a chuckle, really funny. Trading volumes have collapsed by 97%. MakerDAO is running into governance issues. So why are we still here? Why are we still building? What are the reasons to believe? Things to think about. And if you haven't seen this site, I highly encourage you to see it. It's humbling, like with all the excitement that we have around Web3. The site is, I think it's called Web3 is just going great. So if you just search Web3 scams, this is the first link that comes up. And this site is a summary of the total value lost and all the scams that are there associated with Web3. And this scares away so many people. This scares away developers. This scares away common people from actually touching crypto. And it's a big problem. So we got to solve this problem. $11 billion have been lost so far. And this is discounting for the 60 billion lost from the Terra collapse. So how should we think about it? What are we doing wrong, or what are we thinking about when we are thinking about Web3 applications? It's really important for us as a community to think about how will we bring the actual utility of Web3 to people. So that's what I spend my time thinking about when I invest my time. So why are we here? Something has to be broken for it to be fixed, or there has to be an opportunity for improvement. And in order for us to think through like what can be improved, let's take like one example. Let's just pick one example. So I want you guys to spend the next minute and a half watching this video. I just edited this to give you a case study of what is broken today. Audio? Can we have audio? Should I play?
America's most resilient industries, payday loans.
Nope, I don't think there's audio. Should I just disconnect and play from the laptop speakers? Can anyone else hear it? No.
We're going to look at one of America's...
Yeah.
We're going...
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if it'll play the subtitles because it's not a YouTube video. It's something which I compiled. It's a QuickTime movie compiled from the YouTube video. Should I try again? Okay. I'm just going to try this and see if you guys can hear this. Is this good? Okay. Okay, we'll just play it from the laptop. That's okay. All right.
We're going to look at one of America's most resilient industries, payday loans. 1 in 20 households have taken one out.
There are more payday loan stores in America than Starbucks and McDonald's.
More than Starbucks or McDonald's. McDonald's! I didn't know there was more of anything in the US than McDonald's. So how much might a company charge for this sort of service?
Some of those rates legally are as high as 1,900% a year.
1,900%? Even the most demanding, abusive football coaches only ask for 110.
Every payday, I was here.
Every time I got paid, I would pay it off, and I would get another one.
An endless cycle, dead end.
Actual Ace Cash training manual for employees featured a diagram which starts with the customer applying for an Ace loan, moves through them spending the money on that loan, being unable to pay it back, and then being forced to apply for an Ace loan again. You'll notice that has a certain roundness to it. It's basically a recycling symbol for human misery.
Yep. So I don't know if you guys noticed that date was 2011, and you would have thought that after raising mass awareness, this industry, people would do something about this industry, right? Guess what? Like this industry was 9 billion in 2011. Today it's 40 billion. So it's grown fourfold, and it continues to grow. And the downstream effects of this industry are huge because it affects people who need access to capital the most disproportionately. So when I think about industries like this, and this is, we'll see more examples, but the problems in the traditional finance are not isolated to just one industry. There are many examples of this. So there is something broken, and then there is a promise to fix something, right? Can we fix it with blockchain? That's the question. To me, like when I think about Web3, it is about frictionless exchange of value. To me, there is like one single value prop of Web3 that is fundamentally enabled by blockchain that wasn't possible earlier, and that is frictionless exchange of value globally. Without any restrictions on borders, without any restrictions on central government banking systems, can we connect the world financially in a frictionless manner? To me, that is the promise of blockchain. So what internet solved for communication, what the Web2 technologies solve for content and information, this is what blockchain can solve for value transfer. That is like I said, that is like my interpretation of Web3. And now then you think about like why the use cases, the cross-border use cases as an immigrant to me, this is where my journey ties in, are very relevant. Like when I think about transferring money back home to my parents or supporting their business, it's very hard to do that today, so it hits home firsthand. And now you look at the same list of applications and you think about the utility they provide. Each of them is associated with an exchange of value. That value is not frictionless today, but it can become frictionless, and that's what we are building towards. So the utility of NFTs is asset ownership and unique asset ownership. It shows up in the use cases are collectibles. The use cases are contracts that people have, like when they create NFTs for real-world assets. User preferences saved as NFTs and only available to the users who own the NFTs. DeFi is about access to finance. It's about cross-border access to finance, peer-to-peer lending, borrowing, and investing, and access to opportunity for a lot of people. We'll see examples of these. Stablecoins, which is where I chose to spend my time, is about cross-border frictionless exchange of value, and it is about remittance, trade finance, payroll. The payday loan industry that we saw, I'll give you an example of the company that is actually working on it. I'm working with them closely to do streaming payroll solutions and bring payroll to people like on a daily basis, on a week, on an hour-by-hour basis. The DAOs are about governance. So if you can have a transparent governance system, that is what DAO is a good example of. So to me, like each of these applications of Web3 have a fundamental utility, but that utility is applicable in multiple use cases. It just needs to, it's just the first iteration of it, and we need to like figure out how to make improvements. Crypto trading is one very interesting because, and the reason why why I've listed there is because, to me, for the longest time, I would think like crypto trading is about a lot of speculation. It's about speculative asset trading, and there's a lot of fast money there. And that kept me out of it for a little while. And because I fundamentally think of utility, I'm just wired to think that way. And despite like, there is value in trading, and it's about independently raising funds. It's about independently being able to raise money without having to go through the traditional stock market, funding projects. And it works well when it does, but a lot of people lose money as well. So this one, how do we improve this is still a question mark to me. Is a white paper enough? Is the team's background enough? What is it that people can fund with confidence and avoid scams? So there is utility in Web3. It is unique utility. These are the use cases which we can build towards. And I'm choosing to focus my time on DeFi and stablecoins because I believe that, again, like going back to the background that I shared, the idea of programmable money, the idea of an analog asset coming online and becoming available to a large number of developers creates magic for me. So that's where I choose to spend my time. And that's what brought me to Circle. So I'm going to spend like, I was asked to speak about like the utility of Web3. So I'm going to speak about the utility of programmable money. That's something that I understand deeply. So when I think about money, I think of it as programmable money, I think of it as two properties coming together, which is the properties of cash, not credit cards, not your accounts, but pure cash exchange. And that is what the trust in a cash exchange is peer-to-peer. It is instantaneous. The settlement is instantaneous. The delivery of goods is instantaneous, and it's reliable. When you give cash to someone, they rely on it. Even if it's a sovereign-issued currency, it works today. That is how we all function today. So the new money that we create, it needs to retain these properties when people are distant from each other. The second characteristic of programmable money is it should be as programmable as the web allows it to be. So it should be composable. This is where our smart contracts come in. This is where the promise of blockchain comes in, which wasn't available earlier. You can actually settle transactions on the chain without an intermediary, and that is what blockchain fundamentally enables. It's available 24/7. It's not cheap today because of the gas prices, but again, like there are so many innovations on L1 chains that, including on Avalanche, that enable you to that lower the cost of transaction. So we are getting there. The transactions are settling fast as well. We saw some really great demos on how Avalanche does it, but we are getting there with L1 and L2 chains. So we have the programmability combined with the stability and the trust and reliability of a sovereign currency, and then you have this atomic unit of programmable money that you can use across multiple use cases. USDC is one instance of it. It is how Circle thinks of programmable money. I won't claim it's the best. I won't claim it's the worst. There are pros and cons to different types. You can have crypto collateral backed dollar coins, and DAI is your answer. You can have corporate bonds, collateralized stable coins. That'll work as programmable money. Tether is your answer. If you want dollar-backed stable coins, then USDC is your answer. When I think of programmable money, like it is durable if there is diversified utility. So it should not be just associated with speculative trading. It should be associated with a large number of use cases. And I see that there are like 4,000 plus applications that are using USDC and enabling exchange of value with USDC. And they span financial services, NFT marketplaces, game development, payroll, remittance, and many more. The screenshot is from ecosystem.circle.com, so you can have a look there. And if you're building an application that uses USDC, you can just submit your application there, and it'll be available to millions of people who come to the Circle website. So it's working. Like the most important point is that this experiment of programmable money is actually, it seems to be working, which is very exciting. So there's 43 billion of USDC in circulation. It's held in 1.5 million wallets. So it's not available only to a select few. A lot of people hold USDC. It is actually helping people in developing countries hedge against inflation in their own currencies. And we see a big uptick of people holding USDC in countries like in Latin America, in Nigeria, in Kenya. And Nigeria, despite there being a CBDC already available, which is the e-Naira. So you can transact with USDC in 190 countries. There's 4 billion daily transactions and 6.1 trillion transaction volume overall so far. And this is actually equivalent to the total amount of e-commerce worldwide in a year. So the scale is building up. This last chart is my favorite because when we think about utility, it has to be beyond speculative asset trading. And one thing that struck out to me was, this is from a recent paper on macroeconomic implications of stable coins from Gordon Liao. He's a chief economist at Circle. And the paper talks about the correlation of various stable coins with the trading volume and market cap of Ether. So the higher correlation you observe, which means that the stablecoin's utility is tied to trading. And if you see inverse correlation, it means it is resilient to speculative trading, which is where it gives me a lot of excitement for, at least for, in this case, for USDC, that its value is actually diversified, and data shows that. And the mainstream media is catching on, right? So this is I think these are from 2018 to now. Is stablecoin the killer use case of blockchain? And I actually don't think it is right. Like these headlines, they are actually not right. I think stablecoin is an enabler. The value will actually be delivered by the developers who are building and enabling transactions with stablecoins. I don't think stablecoin is a killer app. It's just another building block. So when you read these headlines, it's more about take it with a grain of salt because everyone can build a stablecoin, but at the same time, it's just an enabler. It's all about like the developers who build apps, who deliver the value with the using stablecoins. They are the ones who are bringing utility. And when we think of like the scale of the problem ahead of us, we are like 0.2% done. So the M1 or the M2 money supply in US, which means your cash, checking accounts, liquid cash, saving accounts, all this combines is like stablecoins are 0.2% of that in circulation. It's in the order of $20 to $30 trillion, and stablecoins in circulation are less than 0.2%. And the use cases of stablecoins as enablers of value the use cases are like all across M2 money supply. And this value which will be generated as this pie grows of stablecoin in circulation, the way we look at it is like this pie will grow in favor of Web3 applications only if developers are building apps and services that enable like stablecoins to be used in a responsible way. So we look at this metric as something which talks to us about the overall utility of Web3 applications in the ecosystem. So we spoke about like the payday loan industry as a use case. To give you guys the size of the industry, it's $40 billion, 200 to 700% APR. It is a real problem. It affects like 1 in 5 working Americans. And 80% of the people who take loans within 2 weeks. So you take a loan today, to repay the loan, you will have to take another loan. That's where the recycled symbol of human misery comes in. And the downstream effects, if you account for the people who are not able to pay back their loans and who get affected by like missed payments on healthcare related to crime, it amounts to more than $250 billion per year of cost for the country. So this problem is much bigger. And Zebek is a company that is solving one of these problems. Superfluid is another that is building a platform to solve this kind of problem with streaming payroll solutions. And like I mentioned earlier, this problem is not just a payday loan industry problem. The problem of like a broken traditional financial system is, like you mentioned, decolonization of the traditional financial system, that being a promise. You can look at lending markets, and you can look at how lending markets work to see how it can be, how much is there to fix over here. So the value of lending markets is like $16 trillion, and every 6 months you will see there are problems here. Wells Fargo sued over discriminatory home lending practices. There was a racial discrimination case against a bank for devaluing someone's home because of their race, and that has been a common problem. Student loan settlements are there, $1.7 billion worth of student loan settlements. So the problem is prevalent in numerous sectors of traditional finance. And the best part is, like, if we rebuild these systems with blockchain, with smart contracts, code does not judge. And so these systems are inherently built to be fair, or can be built to be fair. So when we think of rewiring the lending market, this was a use case I was studying before I joined Circle, and to just give myself conviction that I want to work in Web3. And then Goldfinch is a company I came across, which is super fascinating, and it was a good case study to see how it potentially could be fixed. So what you see on the graph over here, what you see is on-chain protocol-based lending, and this graph is from Goldfinch lending pools. And you can see these are lending pools that are being funded by largely folks in the developed countries, and the capital is flowing to more than 30 developing countries. And these are borrowers who would not have had access to the same kind of capital at the same kind of rates. So an on-chain global credit history, that is like a super fascinating promise of Web3, where you connect lenders and borrowers worldwide with a uniform credit score, and you can lend and borrow with confidence. Collateral gets unlocked if settlements are faster. That's another value prop, where if collateral is freed up and collateral gets unlocked faster, it can be redeployed. It accelerates the whole financial system. And with faster settlements and lower cost, there is like reduced counterparty risk. So these are like the fundamentals when the lending market that get changed. If if we build the right lending protocols and are able to utilize them for cross-border lending. The future utility of Web3 to me is about, I'll keep going back to that frictionless exchange of value. People could be getting paid every day or every hour. You could be sending money anywhere in the world, like a WhatsApp message at that cost. And we could have like a fair universal lending marketplace. And these are use cases that are already in motion. Companies are actually already building these use cases, which is where to me the utility of Web3 is really, really strong. Some of the other use cases that we are seeing already are like supplier payments. So cross-border payments is such an interesting use case. If you are a vendor who's supplying buckets and mugs to the United States, or clothes or any objects to the United States, you are likely a mom and pop shop in China, Vietnam, India, Philippines, and you're not getting paid for your goods and services for at least 45 to 60 days. And that happens because first the goods are shipped in transportation. The bank, which is the intermediary, takes the risk, so they hold collateral and they hold the capital until they don't pay you until the goods are delivered and they are inspected. And after that, they charge you a fee. They charge the mom and pop stores a fee, and then there's like Forex fee on top. So there's a lot of inefficiency in cross-border trade. There are companies who are paying their suppliers now with USDC and with stablecoins, and they are making these payments much faster on trusted contract basis. So these are some of the companies. Cross-border remittance is a huge use case. $55 billion plus gets exchanged between Mexico and United States every year. It's one of the largest remittance corridors. MoneyGram has enabled a fantastic use case on the Stellar blockchain. So you can walk into any CVS today. You can hand $100 or $100 of cash, and you can walk away from a Mexican ATM with MoneyGram affiliated banks with the equivalent pesos within minutes, within seconds actually. So the way it works is your CVS store will accept cash. They have a MoneyGram app on the teller has a MoneyGram app. They will deposit cash and they'll mint USDC. Yeah. MoneyGram takes like 0.5%, something like that. It's much lower than TransferWise. That's like the standard right now. And there are cases where the commission goes as high as 2%, but I'm not fully sure exactly how they vary it or on what basis they vary it. So this is a use case for like enabled by Stellar, Wire, and MoneyGram, and they are looking to expand to terminals all across the world, MoneyGram terminals all across the world. So people who are the daily wage workers in the United States, who are like, United States has so many immigrants. So daily wage workers over here can actually just deposit cash in different stores and then send money to their home on a regular basis more easily. The marketplace payouts, this was like more of a flashy use case. Like you won't hear the likes of MoneyGram there. That's not a popular app. You won't hear it in the mainstream media, but the marketplace payouts, like this is what you'll hear a lot about. Stripe, Polygon, and Twitter enabled payouts in crypto for Twitter creators. So these are like the popular use cases. And then inside, what we see is like inside the big banks and inside the card service providers, they are all starting to do their own settlements because of the efficiency of blockchain and the fast instantaneous settlements. They are starting to wire their own infrastructure to do faster settlements globally. So Visa credit card processing, they are building like a global settlement arm powered by blockchain. This one's my favorite. So I just forget the name of this soccer player, but I mentioned I'm a soccer fan. So there was a trade last year between Brazil and Argentina where a Brazilian club was trying to buy a player. I think his name is Giuliano. I might be butchering it. But the soccer player was supposed to be bought in the local currency, and that just wasn't working out for some reason. So they made like $8 million purchase with USDC. So an Argentinian club paid in USDC to the Brazilian club in exchange for the soccer player. That was super cool to see. This is a Solana store in New York. You can go and pay with crypto and buy merchandise. It's a pretty cool store. So we are starting to see this utility of Web3, which is faster settlement and cheaper settlement and frictionless exchange of value, that's starting to play in so many different use cases, from retail to consumer payments, business payments, cross-border finance, remittance, etc. So this next section is talking about like, where do we go from here, right? Again, what are the challenges that we face today? So this is like the last section of the talk. I'm going to just spend a few minutes talking about like how what I'm working on at Circle and what are we building next to enable developers. So like I mentioned, we are like only 0.2% done, and to us, we believe like there's immense value to be delivered to users and really valuable businesses to be created on the blockchain, and we are just in the early stages of that journey. So one of the challenges is like this picture of what the crypto stack looks like is from Coinbase. And we see this, the stack is pretty fragmented. It's very competitive, it's very fragmented. The origins of this fragmentation is from the way the token economics were set up right from the beginning. You have an idea, you can create an infrastructure, you can launch your token. If you're doing a good enough job, it gets adopted. So for every time you find like a fundamental flaw or a fundamental problem in an existing platform, instead of improving it, you can create your own platform that delivers that incremental utility. And so this has improved a lot since the early days, but that's the reason you see so much fragmentation in the blockchain ecosystem, and there are so many infrastructure players in the blockchain ecosystem. And that actually, if you're a developer who has an idea to build like an application on the application layer, then it is much harder for you to know like what is the right chain for you, what is the right stack for you to build with, and how do you actually deliver this value to users. And so building a Web3-based business is hard, right? It's a steep learning curve. We went through the basics of Solidity, and then we went through advanced Solidity, and in the last 2-3 days. And this is like new paradigm. We are talking about the 101s here right now. And we are going to go back and learn a completely new paradigm. It's a steep learning curve. And it's not just, you're not just learning blockchain, you're learning finance as well, because you got to figure out like how do you comply how do you make sure that you're not laundering money? How do you make sure you don't go to jail while building a blockchain app that actually does money transfer? So it's not easy to build a Web3 business that is actually delivering real utility. And like developers, like we don't think about like I don't like to think about compliance. I don't like to think about like this licensing stuff. So for me, it's like that's why I love Stripe, right? Like I don't have to care about any kinds of compliance. I build a sidebar. I also run a public benefit corporation called All Minds. It's like an online mental health care clinic, and I work as a part-time CTO for that. So I write like code on a daily basis, maintain the backend. I've implemented like payment systems for that clinic. And it's magical how Stripe works. Like in a week, you can actually go from not accepting card payments to having a full-fledged React app that accepts Stripe payments in production without talking to any single person for compliance, or without talking to any single person. You upload your driver's license, TIN number, and it just works. And so it's brilliant the way it works. How do we bring that kind of utility to Web3? That is what I spend my time like thinking about at Circle as well, that it has to be as simple as that, and today it is not. So we have to solve these problems. And it's no wonder like we are in the very early days, because you guys are like the 0.1% right now. We are, if you think about the number of developers who are building Web3 applications, it's actually 0.1% of the total Web2 developers. We are 10 years in, or 8 years into the inventions with blockchain, we are still 0.1%. So what you build today, the experience that you build today, is going to be like super valuable in a few years from now. The velocity with which this number is changing is insane. Last month, 1.6 million developers downloaded web3.js to start building Web3 apps. 16,000 developers enrolled with Alchemy in a week for their 101 university class. And I think I saw somewhere that in Stanford, more people were enrolled in Intro to Blockchain than Intro to Computer Science, which was bizarre. So the velocity is building. A lot of smart people are spending a ton of time, and it's a good time to build, because this is going to change. Like we will see this pie change very rapidly in the next few years. And what I spend my time on is building this platform to make it easier for developers to build. If you're building an NFT marketplace, if you're building a financial service, a payments experience, a gaming app, if you are building something that which requires transferring money, transferring crypto assets from a consumer to a business or a business to a business in a compliant way. That is something that I'm really interested in helping you guys enable. So the platform that I'm working on, and we have announced this, but we haven't launched this yet. We have the building blocks for this. It allows you to transact, store, invest, scale your apps, and protect yourselves from money laundering or from going to jail, basically. So in each of these cases, like transactions is enabling like people who hold fiat today and not crypto. That's like 99% of the population. Enabling them to on-ramp into crypto, enabling them to get a wallet, pay with crypto, then store these assets. Like once you have, like imagine you're building like an NFT marketplace, or if you're a merchant who wants to sell something, you would start by accepting a credit card payment or a payment on a crypto app. And then when you accept that payment, you have to store it somewhere. So there has to be like a equivalent of a checking account or a business wallet that you create. And that wallet is your treasury, the back end of your company that you use to pay your vendors, to pay your employees. So that is where like storage of assets is important. Giving you access to blockchain nodes. This is something like what Alchemy does today, enabling like minting and burning of smart contracts, NFTs easily. That's a part of it. The investment is again, like it's connected to how you handle your checking accounts today, how you run your business. So doing that for blockchain-based businesses. And then this one is super cool. It's like scaling your application. So let's say you have this, you're building an NFT marketplace, and you have built this application that is able to transact, that's able to store. You have your account. Now suddenly your application is going viral. How do you prepare to grow your application? How do you spin up millions of consumer wallets that are going to be holding NFTs or that are going to be transacting with your app? And so there are APIs to enable you to build secure wallets, just like how you spin up a phone number or a message with Twilio, you can spin up a secure wallet with an API. That wallet can be like a deposit wallet, withdrawal wallet, so custom wallets for specific purposes, for holding specific assets tied to a specific chain. So you can spin this up on 40 chains today on the platform. And then finally, protect, right? Like I mentioned, like developers, at least the ones I've in my past 15 years, I haven't met a developer who is like very excited about dealing with compliance and regulations and stuff. So taking care of KYC, KYB needs, this is something like I think we need to do a lot of work on. It works for businesses today who have like a long lag time of like 30, 40 days, and they have all their policies figured out. I come across developers who have such an amazing idea, and they want to build, but they get stuck on what is your AML policy, or who's your compliance officer? Like, I don't know. Who thinks about compliance officer when you're like a 3-person startup? So these things need to be solved for developers, and this is what I very passionately believe, that unless this is solved and this complexity is abstracted from developers, we'll find it hard to deliver utility. We'll keep getting hacked. We'll keep getting like negative headlines on Web3, and it just destroys a lot of value. So I feel really motivated to solve this. Yeah, so we call it Circle Web3 Services, and we have a few customers that we are working with to launch this more globally, or outside private beta, basically. And my appeal to you guys is like, let's build an equitable financial system together. Like, you guys are the developers, and we are here to enable you to build. And there's a lot of utility to be delivered with Web3, but it's going to happen if we deeply think about like what user experiences we want to build and why are we building the applications, and remove friction from like building. So yeah, let's build an equitable financial system. Open to questions. Yeah, we recently announced, like, not specifically on subnets, but we announced, there's something we announced which is a cross-chain messaging protocol recently, which allows you to take USDC from one chain and bring native USDC to another chain. And it's open source, so it doesn't require a Circle account or anything. The way it works is you have a smart contract on the source chain, which burns USDC when you want to transfer it. There's a centralized messaging service where you bring the proof of burn, it's listening on the chain, and then you take the proof of burn to the destination chain, and equivalent USDC gets minted. So the reason I mentioned this is like it's not bringing to like subnets within a chain ecosystem. The Cosmos is the first one where we will do something like that next year in Q1. But our first step is to enable USDC to be there natively available on as many chains as possible, and remove like bridged USDC, because that is like a source of hacks. It like fragments liquidity. It makes everything expensive for people. And then the next step is like we're starting with Cosmos in Q1, I believe. We'll start looking at subnets within different blockchains as well.
Yeah. Piggybacking on that last point, is there any plan specifically with Avalanche to get rid of like USDC.E or to merge it with native USDC?
So Avalanche is actually one of the first partners for the native USDC being available there.
Do you know if there's any plan to like eventually merge the liquidity between the two?
That's a good question. So how does the liquidity get merged from bridged USDC to the native? So we are like each of the bridged USDC versions that get created by a bridging partner, right? Like by someone who's building a bridge. So we are working with them to figure out if they can actually use the messaging service to create equivalent native USDC instead of the bridged USDC. But it's going to take some time. It's going to be like another, I think, 3 to 6 months before you start seeing that in action.
Mm.
A kind of related question too, like with the subnets on Avalanche.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to interact with the subnets on Avalanche, if you want to interact with, you know, C-chain, there's going to be some BLS signature stuff, some inter-subnet communication. So, would it make sense, like? Is it even feasible to have like native USDC on a subnet versus C-chain? Can you imagine a situation where you have, like is it a very convoluted process? Like if we wanted native USDC on a subnet versus...
Yeah, got it. Yep. Yeah, I might be wrong here, okay? Like, so take my answer with a grain of salt. I'm not an expert on this yet. But I do believe like the same kind of principle that we are applying to create native versions of USDC with the 3-step process of like burn, attest, mint, I think that can scale to subnets also. The smart contracts will need to be deployed on each subnet for that. That's like my, I think my top of mind answer. I might be wrong here.
Is it any easy way for a crypto project to accept like regular credit card payments? Because if I want to accept credit card payments right now, I basically have to sell crypto, and it's a lot of regulation. It can cause a lot of regulation problems.
Yeah, like that is what the Circle Pay APIs are for, right? So the payment APIs enable you to do exactly that. You are a crypto project who wants to access credit card payments, and you can actually do that with Circle. Now, get in touch with me because that's where, like I mentioned about the KYC process and the KYB process, these guidelines are like pretty stringent and they take time. So what happens is like, just for why everyone knows, like the way it works is crypto projects today, because there have been like so many hacks, and this goes back to like, you know, what we are building, like we need to think of it like more responsibly how we are going to build. Because we get locked out, right? So crypto projects, they come in, they try to build with Stripe, for instance. Stripe doesn't realize in the beginning that there is you're a crypto project, and they will give you access, production keys access. You are on your way, you are building an app. 1 month later, they realize you're selling NFTs, and then you are suddenly shut down. And then you have to work with them, and you have to figure out like, okay, how to unblock you, and it takes months. The reason that happens is because all the credit card processors, they are held to like a very stringent guideline on money laundering. So unless you have like real clear KYC policies in place, and they can verify it, and they can look at your website, they will not allow their credit cards to be used because they can get held liable. Now, the way they solve for that is like they have risk models. Like Stripe has a fantastic risk models, but anytime you're building a crypto app, you're outside that risk model, and it evaluates you as like high risk, right? So you're pretty much shut down. So that is what the way we do it at Circle right now is like, it's not the best, but it is what we do right now for businesses, is that we literally like guide each customer through all the steps that you need to take to be able to process credit cards for a crypto app. And I'm literally going through this with like, with developers right now where this is like a pretty cool use case. Someone has secured the rights to do NFT drops during the World Cup, the soccer World Cup coming up. And that puts like crypto and Web3 and NFTs in front of 5 billion people who are going to be watching the World Cup, which is incredible opportunity, right? So like we're going through this process where we are trying to figure out how do you ensure that people worldwide can use their credit cards in a compliant way for a digital asset, for a crypto native company. And the process does require like, okay, we guide you through like, what is the KYC policies you need to put, what needs to go in your customer support page, what needs to go in your privacy policy page. And the whole goal is to enable you to access credit cards.
Thank you.
Yep.
I've been hearing about MoonPay, been looking into that, and also PaperXYZ.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, thanks. So MoonPay and PaperXYZ, what do you think kind of differentiates Circle from those kind of solutions?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, MoonPay is fantastic. Like they have solved this. So actually that's something you should also know about is that MoonPay actually solves for payments. What they don't solve for is custody. And MoonPay is our customer. So they use the APIs to make the card payments.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.